Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakthroughs with Bree. On this podcast, we are discussing all of the topics that help us have breakthroughs on our personal and spiritual development journeys. My name is Bree, otherwise known as Healing with Bree, and I'm a channeler, energy healer, tarot reader, astrologer, and soul alignment coach. My mission in my work and in this podcast is to help teach people how to shift their consciousness, how to heal, and how to release beliefs and patterns and fears of their ego mind so that they can step into alignment with their soul to live lives of abundance, purpose, and bliss. In these episodes, I will be sharing either through my own lens and my own channel or through the experiences of my guest, wisdom and expertise about healing, spirituality, psychology, personal growth, holistic wellness, mysticism, consciousness, and so much more. My hope is that these conversations help you feel seen and provide support and inspiration for you with your own personal breakthroughs. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Breakthroughs with Bree. On today's solo episode, we're going to be talking about a topic that comes up quite a lot, especially when I'm doing any sort of energy work with people, which really is a part of any work that I'm doing, but especially, maybe for channeling sessions, or sometimes this comes up in my one-on-one coaching since I do energy healing throughout those coaching containers. And that topic is energy cleansing, is maintaining your energetic hygiene through making sure that you are able to release energy that you pick up on. This is especially relevant for people who identify as intuitive, sensitive, empathic, so on, because you're picking up energy all the time. And a lot of times you're accumulating and accumulating and accumulating it. It makes you feel funky. It manifests as health symptoms. And one, you might not even know that that's part of what's causing the health symptoms and for you to maybe feel like you have really low energy or something, but you also probably don't have the tools or the knowledge to be able to start to have a different kind of experience, start to identify when it is other energy that's starting to overwhelm you, how to release it, etc. So this episode is going to break all of that down for you. I was in the shower today, and what's funny is that I was not planning on recording a podcast episode today, but while I was in the shower, like all of this information about this topic came through, and it felt very clear that my guides were like, we'd really like for you to do an episode on this. This is something that people could really benefit from hearing about. So here we are doing a quick little episode about energy cleansing. Hi, everyone. I'm interrupting this podcast for a very exciting and special announcement. My newest one-on-one coaching program is about to launch, and here's what I can tell you. If you are a sensitive or intuitive who's felt like you have struggled with maybe people-pleasing, with perfectionist or control energy, or you always seem to find yourself in the role of the helper and fixer, and you're exhausted by trying to do it all for other people, or maybe it activates this energy in you where you feel snappy or exhausted or rigid, and it's affecting your relationships because you don't have the capacity and patience to connect the way that you want to. Maybe it's with your partner, maybe it's with your kids, maybe it's affecting your quality of life in general. You're always feeling anxious and tired and tense and frustrated, and that's just not how you want to be. Or maybe you have really big dreams and manifestations that you want to work towards, and you just don't know how to say yes to yourself. You don't know how to say no to things that you don't really want to do without feeling that intense shame or guilt, or having that inner critic come up saying you should be doing more for other people, so you can't enact and move towards things that you want to create for yourself. If you identify with this and you're ready to learn how you can start taking care of yourself without feeling like it's selfish and still knowing that you're being kind and generous with the people that you love, if you're ready to start figuring out how to find a better balance, this program is for you. I'm going to be teaching you how to alchemize those triggers of fear and guilt and shame and frustration and anxiety into a greater sense of freedom and peace and authenticity and confidence than you probably ever thought was possible. So you can finally have the tools and the ability to sit back and relax and enjoy your life and connect with people in ways that feel authentic and mature and reciprocal. And so that you feel like you can allocate energy to yourself and to the things that you enjoy without being overwhelmed with guilt and shame. If this is something that you are interested in learning more about, I highly encourage you to sign up for the waitlist with the link in the show description so that you can be the first to hear about this program and the first to sign up for one of the very limited spots. Let me know if you have any questions and enjoy the rest of this episode. Okay, everyone, let's talk a little bit about energetic sensitivity and what's happening when we're picking up on energy in such a way that we would need to be very intentional about cleansing. Okay. A lot of people who are going to listen to this episode, if not everybody, identifies as being intuitive or sensitive, again, maybe as an empath, or in general, being able to be very sensing and responsive to other people around you, their thoughts, their feelings, maybe the thoughts and feelings of the energies of places and spaces, of nature, of animals, etc. If you've heard a lot of my episodes, you know that my perspective on sensitivity, all of those things I just mentioned included, means that you are picking up on more information than the average person, or that you're paying attention to more information than the average person. This could mean that you are like noticing more details about a specific thing, or that you're just picking up more information about all of the things in general. Usually it's a combination of both for people. And because of that, you just have constant information that's channeling through your body all the time, like literally all the time. And that is a lot for our vessel, especially if we are not taking actions and being really mindful of supporting our vessel, which is our body, as it's moving all of that energy through us literally all the time. One of the easiest ways to understand this is through our physical senses, having really strong, sensory abilities in our five senses. Like, for example, if you have really sensitive hearing, right? Or if you have really sensitive smell or taste, right? Or you have really good eyesight, but you're really sensitive to certain kinds of light or something, or maybe your skin and to like temperature and texture, you're really sensitive. Those are all examples of noticing and experiencing greater information coming through those senses that you are able to like pick up and digest. Of course, that can create some things that might feel a little bit difficult, like navigating and managing those things. But nonetheless, you're picking up more information through those senses. Most people, if they have really strong physical senses, our psychic senses tend to follow those, and they're like extensions of our physical senses. But the difference is that when we are young and how we're parented, we're taught to be able to identify information that's coming through our physical senses and then how to respond accordingly. But we're not really taught how to identify information that's coming through our psychic senses and then how to act accordingly once we get that information. For example, if you have a really sensitive nose, you have a really sensitive smell, and you smell something and it like makes your stomach hurt because your body's like, don't like that. Right? You would know, oh, I'm smelling something in the room, smelling something from somewhere, right? I don't like it. I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to open the window. And you know what to do to move forward from that place of, or from that information to come back into a place that feels better for you, right? Just like a very simple example. We are often not taught because this just was information I don't think was widely available to anybody. So this is not a knock on anybody's parents or caregivers, but we just weren't taught to be able to identify when energy that we're picking up is coming through our psychic senses. And then once we're able to identify that, like we don't know how to process that in a way to come back to our center or to use that to be in more alignment. Like we're just not knowing how to do that. So sometimes it's almost like we're collecting all this energy. Some people use like the analogy of a sponge, and the sponge is just like so saturated, and that absolutely manifests as physical symptoms, changes in our mood and our energy, et cetera, because they're all so deeply connected, right? So, my hope is that through the episode today, we can start to get a little bit of information about identifying when it comes in. That might need to be its whole own episode as I'm like tuning into that energy. But regardless, definitely about how we can start to release the energy, even if you don't know exactly where it's coming from. If you're sensing that that might be a component, or you even just want to try this stuff out and see if you start feeling better, that's my hope, is that that will help support you. Or if we've ever done a session, or if you've ever heard from somebody else and it resonates with you that you need to like learn how to cleanse your energy field more often, these are suggestions that are so easy that hopefully you're going to be open to trying in your routine. So, where I'm going to start with this is some signals of when we are energetically overwhelmed or like overburdened, like oversaturated, when like energetically, like we're holding on to too much and it's starting to affect us. And let me tell you, I can speak to this firsthand. I personally think that the majority of my physical symptoms and my depression that I suffered with for years, and then the anxiety that followed, was primarily due to me energetically absorbing so much information and not knowing how to sift through that or release it. And like the accumulation of that over years and years, I think is like the primary primary factor that influenced a lot of those both physical health and mental health issues for me. So I talk about this with so much empathy and really having been there with you. Okay. Here were some of my signals, and I'll talk about any other ones that the guides want me to add into this. One, I felt so tired all the time, all the time. Okay. Another one, a feeling of being depressed. So, as you learn more about the nervous system and the different nervous system states, like polyvagal theory, like all of that kind of stuff, what I've learned is that my system was so triggered that I went into a dorsal vagal response, which is basically like a depressed response. Like imagine an animal playing dead, but it's like your body physically doing that. That was my nervous system response. I was like so overstimulated, so overwhelmed, and my body just shut down. So I experienced a lot of fatigue. I experienced a lot of depression. I experienced a lot of like lack of motivation and being really tired and sleeping a lot, but never really feeling like I had like that really awake, vibrant, vital energy when I was in my 20s, like in adulthood. So that was a big signal for me. Having a lot of digestion issues was another thing, but also I think that's a little bit of like my Virgo energy. Virgo rules the digestive tract. So like that's a thing. But having sort of like a slower metabolism or having digestive issues is another thing. Having inflammation issues, like maybe around like joints or things like that is a big one. I had a lot of lower back and hip pain. I know some people get a lot of shoulder and neck pain. Those are like two of the biggest areas that have to do with that. Having a hard time sleeping is such a big indication of being overstimulated, such a big indication. And really taking on all of this energetic information without really knowing what to do with it is being overstimulated. It's like being energetically overstimulated. Okay. And again, a way that you can start to identify when your system is like feeling like it's a little bit too much is understanding the different nervous system states. Again, polyvagal theory. I'm probably going to do an episode just dedicated to that soon. But there's the dorsal vagal, which is a little bit more of like being like really depressed and despondent and like fatigued. It's like your system goes and like powers down. The other one is fight or flight, where you feel really anxious and restless and like circling thoughts and can't sit still and, all that kind of stuff. That could be a sign that you are emotionally and energetically overwhelmed and overstimulated. It just kind of depends which nervous system state that your body jumps into. But I would say, especially if you have like the thoughts that just won't settle, I can find that that can be like from your mental fields. Like mentally, you're picking up on a lot of information and you're not knowing how to drain the sink, and it's just like circling and going and going and going. Another big one, especially for people who are picking up in particular emotional information, if you are having moods that just don't feel like they're yours or don't feel like they're connected to you and they're really hard to shake, or, and this has a couple different factors too, if you hearing about something that actually has nothing to do with your life throws you into such a funk that you can't get out of it for hours and hours and days. One, that's a signal of like deeply codependent conditioning, which does not make us bad people, but is just something to become mindful of and to kind of come back into to balance about. But that can also mean that energetically your field or like your aura or and there's different ways you could describe it, is very porous and is getting corded to a lot of other things. And your ability to be able to stay really centered and really clear in your own field based on your own experiences and your own feelings and your own decisions. Like if you think of somebody that's in that energy as having like a really solid, maybe it's like a white light that around the edge of their aura, and our aura goes like on average maybe 3 or 4 feet outside of our body. Like really clear, all of the energy in it is their own. They're able to project energy out easily or just stay in their own. And it's like all determined from how they feel and what they want. If that's somebody with like with a really strong self energy, people who are very energetically absorbent, their field is more porous, and therefore what's inside their field a lot of times is not theirs. And it's almost like it's being pulled and tugged on by energies outside of them. And like they don't even know who they are, what's up, what's down. Like it just can become really confusing. And especially if there's really emotional things, like if you hear something really sad on the news or something really sad that happened to a friend of a friend, and like you were just a mess about it, your energetic boundaries and like the energy that you're picking up on is not really what I would say is like proportionate or healthy is it kind of implies judgment, which is not really what I mean. But I guess from my perspective, a way to know that you're really grounded in your own energy is that of course you can feel empathy, but it doesn't have like control over you. What I was thinking of is like if you've ever felt so overstimulated that you almost feel like buzzy. That's like the only word I can think of it. Like almost like there's like static of like a TV like in your ears and all around you and like on your skin. I find this especially if I've been in really loud places for a long time, like maybe it was a work conference or, we were out at a mall or in a restaurant that was really crowded. And like I feel the buzz, not just again in my five senses, but it feels like it's in my whole field. And that to me is a big signal that I need to decompress and release a lot of energy. So if you find yourself feeling that way, and what's funny is you might not even identify that because you might jump straight into one of your like maybe not healthiest coping mechanisms when you feel that way to drown out the feeling of like the buzziness because that's kind of an uncomfortable feeling. So maybe you pick up a glass of wine or you pick up something to distract. And so like you're not even in your body long enough to recognize it. But as I started to really intentionally come back into what my body was feeling, that was one of like my telltale signs that I was energetically picked up on a little too much. You know what I'm saying? They're saying that they want me to describe what it feels like when you're not really energetically overwhelmed so that it provides a little bit of contrast. And they're telling me that some of you listening, like what I'm about to describe, will feel such like a novel concept because like your whole life has been colored by being energetically overwhelmed by people around you. Okay, so when I am feeling really grounded and in my own energy, everything feels really clear and really at peace. So, like if I wake up in the morning, I feel rested, I don't feel groggy, and my mind feels quiet. Like it's almost like my body is quiet. There's a sense of quiet, like in my whole field. Oh, it's the best feeling. I'm thinking about it now. And I'm like, oh, I need to go meditate so I can feel that way. It feels so good. So everything is like really quiet. Even if I was gonna say, like maybe if you like go out in nature, you get that feeling. But if you go out into nature really energetically overwhelmed and overstimulated, you're not even going to feel this feeling until your body and your mind decompress and release the energy, right? So maybe like after you've, I don't know, like had a good exercise or you've been away from people for a while or you've been in nature for a long time, maybe you know what I'm describing, but it's like very quiet and clear. Like I'm not having pain or anxiety or any kind of like weird feelings in my body, which is fine if I do, but just in that moment I don't, right? I feel very present. I'm not being my attention is not being pulled into thoughts and memories and oh what about this, what about that, and oh this one person that one time, like it's not, that's not happening. I'm just observing. I'm present. It feels really good in my body. And it feels like the canvas is blank or like the slate is blank for my own soul to draw on, for my own soul to be able to point me towards what would feel most joyful today or most pleasurable or what's inspiring me, right? Like once everything is like really quiet and open and clear, like I'm really connected to what I want and what I feel. I have more capacity if there's something that I want to work through. They're saying that just like a sense of calm and peace is really common with them. And they also want me to say that being able to sense this has everything to do with you being connected to how your body feels. And what can be tricky about this, especially for empaths, and I talked about this a lot in the neurodiversity episode with the blissful bohemian Savannah, which I really recommend you go back and listen to if you haven't. She's brilliant. Science, spirituality, like mysticism. It's a fabulous episode. But what the ironic thing is that people who are very sensitive tend to be very sensitive through their physical senses as well. And when you don't know how to process that and come back to a field of safety, the very first thing that we do is we learn to jump out of our body or dissociate to different degrees. And so to come back into a place where you feel like you have autonomy and power to create that sense of groundedness and peace of your body requires you to come back into contact with your senses and with how your body feels. But that's the very first thing that our body, like the instinct that we jump to, that our subconscious mind automatically propels us into, is dissociation from our body, because that seems to be the source of the discomfort. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but they want to point out that if you're having a hard time even like connecting the dots with some of these feelings, or if you want to dive deeper into this work, just little by little coming back in and noticing signals from your body is so important. That can be hunger signals, that can be thirst signals, that can be signals about, again, things on your skin that you don't like, clothes, things that feel too tight, spaces that feel too full, I guess is the way I can say it, energetically, or maybe too small or something. Maybe it's like emotional sensations. Maybe there's a tightness and your body's trying to tell you that it needs to stretch or something. You know what I'm saying? Like coming back into connection with your body, your energy levels, that's a huge one, a huge, huge one, right? So a lot of the answers about how to do this are going to be in your physical body. That is the physical manifestation of this whole experience. Now that we've talked a little bit about what it looks like to be energetically, emotionally overstimulated and overwhelmed, let's start talking about what it looks like to start releasing that energy, start to wring out the sponge, so to speak. This is so important because, again, all of the layers of your bodies, like your energetic bodies, they all are connected back into your physical body. So if you want to experience a difference in your material worlds, it has to come and connect down into your physical body and your physical health. It is so important to do all of this, not just for like your emotional well-being and your mental health and like spiritually, so you're more open, but like for your physical health, keeping these things in mind and keeping them as a part of your routine when you are a sensitive person is vital. So, so important. Here is the main concept that I want you to think of as it relates to all of the different components that we're going to go through for energetic cleansing and release. I want you to think of circulation, movement, and circulation. That is the key to release. Okay. And a little bit of detachment, which we'll talk about. But really, if you think about, conceptualize circulation and movement, that is the key. Okay. I'm going to talk about this in more detail, but that is the foundation of this whole thing. First, let me describe the different energetic bodies because I'm going to tie this into all of them. So we have our physical body, what we can see and touch, and then we have our physical fields, which is like the layer that's closest to our body. Then we have our emotional field just outside of that. Then we have our mental field outside of that. And then we have our spiritual field outside of that. And then outside of that, we have like etheric and light bodies and all that kind of stuff, right? What's really interesting about this is that those also are associated with the different like frequencies and vibrations of energy. So anything that is physical that we can touch is a slower vibration. You could say a lower vibration, but like a higher rate of density, slower vibration. That's why we can touch it, right? And as we move out and away from the physical field through all of those different layers, the frequency of those energies is faster, aka higher vibrations. As we move out and again out into the light bodies and etheric fields where it's like super high vibrational, et cetera, et cetera. We're very multidimensional, even just in how we're anchored into our bodies. It's a fascinating thing. Okay. I explained that to say we're going to talk about what it could look like to be a little blocked up in each one of those bodies and how we can create circulation, how we can create movement of that energy through those different bodies. Here's what the guides are telling me about this, and they want you to understand is that there's never going to be a point where you're not taking in energy and information that's just not a part of our nature, like a source, like we're this infinite, constantly moving, changing, being birthed and dying and all that, like it's just constant, but your ability to understand how that works and to like kind of steward the flow of that is what's going to make this easier, because what they're showing me is what happens is like you're taking in but you're not being mindful of letting that same amount go. It's like the letting it flow without resistance through you, or at some point again like emptying the sink drain, like letting it go out, which is the problem. So again, it's like it builds up, builds up, builds up and feels like heavy, like if you're carrying it on your shoulders, and then all of a sudden you start to feel wonky and you're not able to bring things through creatively or emotionally because it's all stocked up. It's like a clogged drain. There's so many analogies for that, so many, like a clogged artery or drain. It's like it gets clogged, like literally. And no wonder we start to feel weird. Energy is supposed to always be in motion, which is again why it feels like they really want us to anchor into this idea of circulation and movement as it relates to energy cleansing. Okay, I'm going to go through the different fields and provide a little bit more context. So physically, what are some examples physically of when we're getting a little clogged up and when we're becoming a little overstimulated or overwhelmed? I'm thinking for like the physical stuff, like actual physical body, you could think of a lot of like physiological examples, right? Like again, even coming back to your digestive system, like you always are going to need to take in food if you want to live, to be sustained, right? That's your body's source of literal energy, right? If you took in food and your digestive system wasn't working optimally, and because of that, food was getting stuck at different places in it or altogether wasn't moving through, your ability to digest food that came in later obviously would be significantly impacted. Your ability to absorb the nutrients from that food in the first place would be diminished, not to mention the detoxifying purpose of our digestive system, aka through, our bathroom uses, right? And the importance that that plays, like all of that would be impacted by the food not being able to move properly through your digestive system. It's the same thing with energy. It's the same thing with emotions. It's the same thing with mental ideas and spiritual, like inspiration. It's the same with all of them. Okay. Or if we think about our blood vessels, right? Like the purpose of our blood is to be in constant movement throughout our body. It's like a carrier of goods, the current of our circulation. The current of energy around us, again, is almost like a carrier of not only being able to bring things into our field that we need, but also carrying energy out and taking things away that we're ready to release because that's always happening. We're always ready to let little things die every day. And we're asking and praying for stuff and all of that. And our guides are bringing it in. So our energetic current that's always running through our body is very similar to our circulation system in that way. And if things again arteries started to get clogged, like you've heard, we know about all of the physical illnesses and conditions that happen when our circulation system is not working optimally. But it's like a really important system to be able to work as designed, right? So that's like a physical example of when there's not circulation and movement and we start to get clogged up in different places. All right, let's talk about the emotional field now. With all of the conversations around mental health, just, in our culture across the board, I feel like this one is like a pretty easy one to understand. But again, all of your fields and how energy is moving through them manifest in your physical body. Let's just say, as a kid, you were not able to have anger in situations that you should have, right? Being able to be angry at people not treating you fairly or not telling the truth, or they themselves, not being in integrity, or people not really being nice to you, but you couldn't really voice that. You couldn't really embody that, right? And still be connected and safe and all the things that we instinctually know that we need to be as kids, right? And so you hold on to a lot of anger. First of all, that manifests in our organs, that changes the energy and the cells literally around certain organs in the body. It's a fascinating thing to look into. I believe anger is associated with the liver. So not letting the energy of anger, because that's all emotions are, is energy in motion, emotion, energy in motion. That's all it is. Okay. It is a certain vibration of energy that wants to move through us, carries in certain information, and is also going to carry out certain information with it on the way out, right? I like to tell people it's like a wave. We don't know how to let the wave crest and fall away. We don't know how. We get so freaked out about the sensation of the emotion as the wave is cresting that we push it down, we repress it. It stays in our body. It gets stored literally in the cells of our body and it affects us physically. We've never let it finish that process of cresting, falling, dissipating. Us doing that with literally any emotion will create blockages. It will create that sense of stagnancy, right? And any kind of stagnant energy, it's not how energy is designed to move, and you are going to feel it if it is staying stagnant, right? So it's an example, an illustration of how it would work emotionally. Mentally is really interesting, and I feel like it's very connected to spiritual, but I'm going to let the guides talk me a little bit through this mental one. In our mental fields, we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of logic, we like to process things. And again, this is paired with emotions, and this is also paired with spirituality on either side of that field. When we're not letting ourselves truly process information, take in new information, especially when we're not like really thinking for ourselves, or maybe we're overthinking about certain topics, that we just don't have business thinking about and taking responsibility for and not spending enough of our mental energy on things that we should, things start to get like off balance. We start to generate a lot of energy in one area that is not really meant to be where we're generating energy. And we are not using our mental capacities to let information come into our mental field and then move out through this mental processing, right? So if we're not taking time to, let's just say, you get an inspiration through your spiritual field, right? And you're not really taking time to sit and plan it out, to think through like what that would look like or use your mind to visualize it, right? But you know it's something you want to do, but you're not really using your mental energy. Like that energy stays stagnant in your field. You're not letting it move all the way through all of your fields and through your mental field, right? So just like some examples, I know that that one's a little bit more abstract to think about, but you letting your mental energy and your mental processes like go from start to finish about things that are important to you and not like ignoring certain things and not taking in information in places that you should, et cetera, can all create stagnation or blockages in your mental field. And finally, spiritually, us being able to connect with like a bigger perspective than what is just us, or like the spirit of divine love, or all of the ways that spirit wants to bring in essentially new information to us. Like a big place where we evolve and grow is through the information that we get through our higher selves, through connection with the collective, right? Like that's a place where we're learning, and again, we're just taking in more information as we're navigating this experience. In addition, when we're doing things like setting goals or having manifestations, a lot of the inspiration and our creative process starts in our spiritual field. So if we are not either listening and tuning in at all, huge imbalance, huge block. Right. If we are kind of taking it in, but not pulling it through all of our fields and letting the process fully go through, again, that can create stagnation of that energy. And then we think, oh, because the result hasn't manifested, let me try and manifest more things. You get more ideas. You don't ever honor them. You don't ever see them through. You don't let them come all the way through your field. Again, stagnation, right? Or again, in any of these fields, you could be picking up on other people's energy as well. You could be sensing things that are coming through to them or sensing emotions in them that maybe they're feeling in the moment. Or what I find most often is emotions that they're not letting themselves move all the way through. And because that energy is so prominent and so stuck in trying to get that person's attention, you being a very sensitive person, you also sense because its energy is that it's trying to get attention. And so you pay attention to it because you sense it, right? And then you bring it into your field and it's not yours to do. It's not yours to deal with, right? Or like ideas, people who should be thinking through stuff, you're thinking it through for them, right? So, first examples of when it's your own energy that you need to be circulating and moving through, honoring its cycle of coming in and moving out, right? And again, all of this can happen with other people and picking up those energies on them as well. Heard all of this and you're like, okay, Bree, I get it. I get it. I gotta let it move. I gotta honor how it comes in and I gotta like let it have its process to go out. But what does that look like? So happy to tell you this is my favorite part. A lot of it has to do with different methods of grounding and literally ways that you can physically create movement, motion, and circulation. But no, this does, I'm not, what I'm not about to say is that you need to go like work out and run 2 miles at the gym. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It does not have to be something that takes 30 minutes. It does not even have to be something that's particularly strenuous, but it does have to be something that is intentional. So let's talk about some examples of what that could be. First of all, yes, there is an element of grounding that has to happen and intentional work with your root chakra. People who are really sensitive tend to really have strong upper chakras. So purple, indigo, blue, turquoise, green, right? And if you follow Mystic Michaela, and pink is above purple from usually how I say it. If you follow Mystic Michaela and her aura colors, all of the ones that I just mentioned are what she calls empathic aura colors. These are very sensing. They take in a lot of information, right? All of that energy coming in your upper chakras needs to continue to move through your channel down through your root chakra. And if we're not doing enough work to keep those lower chakras engaged and open and expanded so the energy can continue to move through them, then it's staying stuck. And again, it's getting stagnant up in your body in those upper chakras and it's not moving. Energy needs to be in constant motion. What could that look like to ground? Yes, you can do some things that are really simple, like put your bare feet on the bare earth. That is one of my favorite things to do. Just go sit outside, read a book. If you want to listen to music, you can. If you just want to listen to the birds chirp, that's also incredibly regulating to your nervous system, right? Maybe you're playing with your kids outside, you just decide to take off your shoes. If the weather allows, put your feet on grass, on dirt, on sand, put it on the earth. There's a lot of health benefits to that as well. Other things, you can do visualizations. You can like meditate on opening up your root chakra and around concepts about safety and that you belong. And on that level, that tends to be kind of like a spiritual mental approach, which absolutely can put you in energies that is like invigorating your root chakra a little bit more. But because your root chakra is so connected to your physical experience in the world, what I recommend most to people who are really needing to open up and strengthen their lower chakras is to have it be physical types of activities. Yes, this is going to be exercise and movement of some sort. Now, if you get triggered about doing movement because of like body image or weight stuff, or just having like kind of like traumatic experiences or really nasty, shameful, judgmental thoughts around movement, I just want to say I feel so much compassion and empathy for that because that's something I've really struggled with too, which is really ironic because I was an athlete growing up. I was like a varsity sports all year round kind of girly. And in my 20s, when a lot of these physical symptoms manifested, one of which being gaining a lot of weight outside of what felt like sort of a healthy place for me to be, and me getting into physical movement, it was really triggering. I want to acknowledge if you feel that way, it does not have to be like that for you still to benefit from the kind of movement that connects you with your root chakra. Okay. I really like things that have to do with your legs and your hips when you're trying to get into lower chakra stuff. Yes, this can be walking. Yes, this can be stretching. This can be things as easy as yoga, it can be dancing, but especially movement and usage of the muscles that's in your lower body. And yes, your core too, because you really can't do lower body stuff without core being a part of it as well, right? But like mindfully engaging, like even in yoga, like the chair pose, like sometimes if I really want to get into my root chakra, I'll literally just get in the chair pose and like really contract my glutes and my hamstrings and my quads, and I'll just feel them. Like my mindfulness, and this is something I talk about in lifting too, like being really mindful of the muscles, like sitting in that for 15 seconds is even something where I'm creating a deeper connection and therefore opening up my lower chakras. So things like that are really big if you do have exercise that you really enjoy, and adding in this sort of witchy element that you're grounding or that you're activating and opening your lower chakras is something that makes it really exciting for you. I love that for you. I love that for you. But yes, connecting with the actual muscles and physiology of those lower places is really grounding. And the other thing is, again, connecting to your body's sensations. Mindfully connecting to your sensations is grounding because your body exists kind of in the same plane as your root chakra because it's the most dense, the slowest vibration is red root chakra kind of stuff, right? So the more that you're paying attention to when you're thirsty, when you're tired, when something's too loud, when something's too bright, and you're responding to those accordingly, the more that your root chakra will feel safe, the more that it will open up, right? That is you literally activating and working with that energy and grounding just through that alone. And I'm getting to even just like the power of breathing, because that in itself is emotion. It's the inhale, the expansion, the exhale, the release. Breath work I'm such a big fan and advocate of breath work. Brings you in your body, also brings in a sense of mindfulness. Those are all things that can really help on that physical level, and also can connect you to the emotional level. So if you're feeling a lot of emotions that feel really stagnant and stuck, again, coming into your body can be a really good place to start. And at the very least is going to be a place where you're able to get the most release and healing because a lot of stagnant and stuck energies literally, again, manifest in the body, in the tissues, in the fascia, in the organs. So you connecting that physical part of it is going to create a lot of healing. If you're thinking, what does that look like, Brie? It's not really complicated, but I can't understand how it would be hard if you are afraid that connecting to your emotions is either going to last forever, or it's going to make you all of a sudden a super negative person, or it's going to like completely go out of control and traumatize you, or that like your emotions are going to like possess you into doing things that you don't want. Like if you have all of those stories about feeling your emotions, which a lot of people do, I did as well, I can understand how it just would feel intimidating to do it. But even something as simple as like noticing where you have sensation in your body that feels like it might be emotion and like, okay, what does this feel? If it was a color, what color would it be? If it was a shape, what shape would it be? What words would I use to describe this? Those are all ways to get into the observer energy, the observer point of view of energy that is in your body. And just letting it have your attention without judgment already gives it the stage to start moving. It'll already start moving. You crying, if you have anger or anxious energy, there's probably going to be need to be some movement paired with it. It can be like punching a pillow or, things like that that are safe ways to like discharge the energy. But your body's going to want to let it move because it knows that that is really healing for you. Let the emotions come, let them move. There's a lot of really cool ways that you can do this, but just know that they don't last forever. Actually, if you're not feeding into the loop, they only ever last 90 seconds. If you have a lot of emotions that are like repressed, you might experience it might feel kind of big the first couple of times. It will get easier. Of course, get help from, mental health professionals if you really feel like you need that. But letting emotions start to move will create a lot of circulation, a lot of movement, and release stagnation from your overall experience. We talked about some of the mental stuff before, like using your mental energy mindfully. Your brain is such a powerful tool. Your mental part of your fields is incredibly powerful. It's one of the most impactful parts of your ability to create your reality. Use it mindfully. Like, what are you using this engine of your mind for? Is it being put towards things that feel important to you or like intuitively keep coming up? Or are you using them to ruminate and generate energy and like on topics that aren't yours? There's a lot of thought work to do around this. This is really good for like counseling or coaching work or therapy work to start to understand where your beliefs are making you like cord into other people or engage in energies that you don't need to be engaging in. Especially if you've got a lot of codependent stuff, which a lot of women do. And like you feel like other people being upset is your problem, like you're cording out into their energy because of your own belief. It does not have to be that way. So, as a reformed and healing, recovering people pleaser, it doesn't have to be that way. But these are all ways that you are reaching out energetically into other people and leaving the door open for more energy to come in. I will tell you, once I decided, like really healed and shifted my beliefs in my mental field, that I wasn't responsible for all of these people's shit, like for all of their energy and all of their weird stuff that they had going on. Like I stopped absorbing so much of it and it became a lot easier. A lot of times your mental field is a place where you can create really wonderful boundaries. And if your beliefs are wonky, not anybody's fault, doesn't make you bad people, but if they are making you feel like you have to be taking in all of this energy, of course you're feeling energetically overwhelmed all the time. So attending to your beliefs and your boundaries mentally, and where you're putting your mental energy can have a big impact on you being able to, in the first place, not let energy in, but also like release your hold on things. Like if it's almost like you're clutching, you're like gripping other people's energies and things that you don't need to be doing. Like release, open your hands, release your grip on it mentally with the way you're thinking about it. Let the energy move out and away from you, down out of your root chakra into the earth, whatever visualization feels good, but that's really important to do. Spiritually is kind of similar to the mental stuff, and I mean to all of it, but it's most similar, I would say, probably to the mental and emotional things. Our spiritual connection can be a place where we receive a lot of information all the time. Again, if you're super psychic or super intuitive, maybe you were born with like a channel where the volume's turned all the way up, or it's a really big psychic channel, and you're receiving all of this information all the time from your guides, from your angels, like from the earth and all that. Like you're just getting it all the time. Just because you are sensitive to it does not mean you need to be taking in that energy all the time. Like you just do not need to be. Okay. Like you can close your fields, you can narrow your fields like around your crown. You can turn down the volume of your fields, and that is okay. That does not make you bad. That does not mean you're denying anything. And in fact, that's really, really healthy for you to ground the energy that you already have in your field and for you to get really centered, because you can't meaningfully in like a healthy way bring through that spiritual information and inspiration if you are not centered and grounded anyway. So if that energy is like pulling you all over the place and like you're just like, I just need to turn on my third eye and all this kind of stuff, but you're feeling really overstimulated all the time, you might need to consciously, let me turn this down a little bit. Let me focus on the energy I already have. Let me make sure I'm really connected to my own instincts, gut, my current experience, my body, and then I can open it up and actually let that energy move all the way through me and process it. That could be an alternative way to think about it. So here are some of the things that I do in my daily routine that have started to help me create more movement and circulation around my energetic hygiene. One of the things that I do every day is dry brushing, lymphatic drainage. It feels like there's a lot more significance to our lymphatic system than we realize, especially energetically and spiritually and emotionally, and how that connects and impacts our fascia, and our nervous system. Like it feels like there's a lot of significance to that. If you've not looked into where your lymphatic system runs through your body and some of the big drainage points, like in your armpits, near your groin, in your head, like on your ears, like all of the, and there's a lot of lymphatic stuff that runs through your stomach. Like if you've never looked into it, I would highly recommend even just like a visual. And it doesn't take a lot of pressure, but intentionally helping things move in your body, in your fascia. This also helps with circulation. That is so important, not to mention it improves skin. I watched a thing the other day that a lot of acne can actually be caused by buildup of lymph in our, like under our skin. Fascinating. So lymphatic drainage, this does not take me more than 5 minutes. I do it when I'm changing out of my pajamas and getting into my clothes for the day. That's my time to do it, but lymphatic drainage is one of them. Another one, I do sort of like mobility, kind of like stretches things in my areas where I notice a lot of buildup. For me, that's a lot of my hips, again, like lower back area, but also I try to maintain like really good circulation in my shoulders. It's literally as easy as when I'm making a smoothie or I'm making a coffee in the morning. I will do some like lift up my knee and then straighten it out behind me, and lift up my knee and straighten it behind me, or do like a fire hydrant lift like while I'm there, just start to like lubricate and open up the joint a little bit. I'll do a little bit of stretching, like side to side, things that I know really start to open and loosen the muscles and the tendons, and like lubricate up the sockets themselves and start to get circulation into those areas, like really easy shoulder and neck stretches. This literally takes not even a minute, right? This isn't like a full, you got to sit down and do 20 minutes of it. Just a little bit every day goes a really long way. And again, I'm intentionally thinking of it about releasing energy that might get built up and stuck there. I love yoga too. Yoga is an energy healing in itself. The way that it's tapping into all the chakras and the way that it helps like literally drain out energy is really, really big. Also do grounding, like I mentioned. I every single day, unless the weather is really bad, I will go outside and sit with my feet in the ground or stand with my feet in the ground, even if it's only for 60 seconds, even if it's only for 2 minutes. Sometimes I take a book out there. I'll read out there, right? I try to spend a lot of time grounding. That feels really important for my health. They say it's really big for people with blood sugar or blood pressure issues, something about the magnetic charge of the earth. Anyway, grounding is a big one. Can also be really easy. Movement. Yes, movement. Again, it can be yoga, can be dancing. Walking is my favorite right now. I literally will go on a walk by myself. Sometimes I don't take my dogs, even though I would like to. I'm like, no, this is a walk for me. I'll put in my headphones. I listen to my playlist, and it's like I am the main character of my own movie, my own music video as I'm on that walk. And that is so joyful and shamelessly fun for me. Okay. So it can be something that's fun, but the intention behind it is I know that my body needs circulation without it even being really intense. My body's recovering a little bit from adrenal fatigue. So, like, pushing my body too far is actually counterproductive. So, doing something that's a lot more low impact, like walking, is so joyful, so joyful. I started out, even if it was just for 10 minutes, I'm now up to like really liking a 30-minute walk. Sometimes they're still shorter too, but walking. And it's also really good for people who have ADHD or a little neurospicy. The bilateral stimulation of like foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right. It's really good for our brains. So that's one that's really good. Like body tapping, like literally just like tapping and kind of like hitting like a little bit firmly, but not hard on different parts of the body, can activate even some of like the chi points in our body, kind of similar to EFT, but like you're on your whole body. That can be something that's really cool. That can just start moving energy, like start getting the stagnancy out of it. And they're saying that you can also do this from like a chakra perspective too. Like people with really like overwhelmed throat chakras that close up in response, like even you speaking on things that don't feel important, but just like are something that you want, starts to release stagnant energy there. Or if you have kind of like a weak or powered down solar plexus, one doing like actual core work is really good. But you like making a plan and following through on a plan can be really important. Or if you got some sacral chakra stuff, again, let it just be things that are fun and silly and pleasurable. Great. Like there can be, again, like chakra specific stuff to get stuff moving if you're studied up on that or if you've watched my bonus episode about chakras. Showering is so magical, people. It's so magical. Not only when you're like washing your body, is that in itself kind of like a lymphatic drainage massage? The water is so cleansing to all of the fields that I just mentioned, especially if you ask your guides to use it to balance and cleanse your fields and to like remove any cords that are not serving you. Showering. Ugh. And I like this might be a little bit embarrassing to say, but like I had a healer once tell me that I wasn't showering enough. I showered like, I don't know, like maybe once every 3 days, especially because I was in a dorsal state and like all I wanted to do was like sit on the couch. I wasn't doing anything overly active. I wasn't like sweating or anything. But again, it was all contributing to stagnant energy in my body. So me showering more often, again, not to like make it sound gross, but just to be real with you guys, like was a really important part of me starting to heal and release and start to feel like I had more energy available to me. Even when I'm doing things like washing my face or my skincare, like thinking about like the way that I'm rubbing it in, like creating circulation in my face or my third eye, draining lymphatic stuff out of my head when I'm washing my hair, scalp massage. We can hold a lot of tension and stuff on our scalp too. And the other thing that they're wanting me to mention too is that again, sometimes it's just a matter of being completely overstimulated. Like we're in our modern world has us exposed to so much energy all the time. And that feels like they really want me to point out that this is more energy than is what is normal. But we think it's normal. So we judge ourselves and we shame ourselves for being overstimulated by like a quote unquote normal life. If you are really sensitive and if you're trying to take back your power and influencing an experience where you feel really grounded and at peace and all those kinds of things, then you have to honor when your body feels overstimulated. You need to spend more time by yourself. You need to spend more time not looking at your phone and getting all this stimulation and courting to a bunch of energy through all of the people that you're scrolling past. Because yes, energy gets hooked into you even by what you're scrolling on social media. So if you're feeling like that, like intentionally spend time away or even like where we live, gosh, and I know there's not a ton we can do about this, but like living in such close quarters with people, like we're also being overstimulated all the time, like literally all the time. So creating more times where you can decompress your energy, you're taking in a lot less and you're really focused on creating that circulation and that movement and opening up those lower chakras so it can really start to move through you, getting like dedicating time to getting good sleep. I read a thing the other day that our brain does its most important detoxifying after, I think it's hour 5 or 6 of sleep. So if you're not getting like 6+ hours of sleep, like your body is literally not able to physiologically detox really important things out of your brain. Crazy. Okay. Dedicating time to sleep so that you're supporting your body in its own natural cleansing that it does literally every day without you having to think about it. Really important. Right? These are all things that are contributing to your energy getting stagnant and holding on to things that you do not need to be holding on to. Okay. And the other thing they want me to mention is staying really hydrated too. Having a lot of water in your system helps your body move and circulate things through. Yes, your body is metabolizing energy physically, and water has all of the colors of the spectrum in it, connects to all of the like it's literally one of the most healing things. If you can invest in getting good quality water, and if you're drinking a lot of water, you probably also want to invest in some sort of electrolyte because that is also helping the water in your body essentially be more effective at its job. If you're doing any sort of energy work, if you feel like you're unintentionally connecting to different energies, a lot of water that's high quality with electrolytes change the game for me. Okay, so I think that that's everything for today. This episode ended up being a lot longer than I thought it would. A lot that they wanted to say about this. I could do a whole nother episode on identifying when energy is yours versus other people and the concept of starting to like set boundaries and all that kind of stuff. And it feels like they would like me to do that. And if you would really like me to do that, please DM me so that I can know to prioritize that. But it felt like it was important to start with this concept of releasing the energy, of starting to have a better concept in our mind about what it looks like when we're feeling that really overstimulated, overburdened feeling, and how we can just create more motion and circulation to aid our own body's ability to do it. It's literally designed to help energy come in and move out and stay in constant motion. We just get in the way a little bit, you know? I will say that I do at least two, maybe three of all of the things that I just mentioned today, water being a like a default because I'm just one of those people that loves drinking water. I have to do a lot of electrolytes. So I do at least two or three of those a day. Again, they don't take a long time. I pair them with things that feel really nice and so they don't feel like a burden and they make me feel so much better. Like I feel weird and funky and like I can't get stuff done that I want and emotionally feel kind of like lethargic or static. Like I can tell when I'm not doing things that supports my own body's ability to cleanse and detox energy as well as things physically, and it doesn't feel good. And if I want to feel good, then I have to do the things that I know help me feel good. I have to kind of like take responsibility for that, and doing a little bit at a time, and building the routine that I have has changed the game. Absolutely. I think that it's not only helped me do more impactful work for other people because I don't got energy leaks all over the place, but it's helped my vessel be able to withstand bringing through more energy even for other people, like in the healing work that I'm doing. So it's all a really important and wonderful process to do. Let me know if any of these suggestions resonated for you or sounded particularly exciting. Let me know if you have any questions, if you'd be really interested in that episode about, establishing a little bit more of a differentiation between your energy and other people and boundary setting. Absolutely something I can talk more about. But as always, I just hope that this is helpful for you and your own personal breakthroughs in your own life. And with that, I will see you next Monday for more breakthroughs. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode and for tuning in to Breakthroughs with Brie. Please share your favorite episodes with your friends and loved ones, and please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it, as it helps me continue to create these episodes to help support your breakthroughs. I would love to stay connected with you, so please follow me on social media at Healing with Brie. Please check out my website at healingwithbrie.net, which will always have the most up-to-date information about the services that I'm currently offering. And please consider using the link in the show descriptions to subscribe to my email list so you can be the first to hear about any offerings. You can get all of the free resources that I offer, as well as get my weekly channeled messages. My deepest love and gratitude to you, and I can't wait to have more breakthroughs with you next week.